Hi everyone, and welcome to our next instalment of CRS's Calls with the Luminary, presented by the CRS e-media team. Today, our guest is none other than the incoming CRS President, Professor Ben Boyd from Monash University in Melbourne, Australia. His background is in colloidal and physical chemistry. Dabbling with particles from explosives to pharmaceuticals, Ben has a wealth of knowledge and experience in both the industrial and academic worlds. He's heavily involved in many scientific communities such as CRS and the Australian local chapter. He's serving on the editorial board of multiple journals such as JCIS and DDTR. And most importantly, he is a super supportive mentor for his legion of PhD students and alumni. Please welcome Ben to the floor. So thank you for joining me today. Maybe first off, I want to congratulate you on receiving the Laureate Grant Research Award from the Nova Disc
Novo Nordisk Foundation.
Yes, congratulations. Do you want to go into a bit more detail with what your plans are with this new grant?
Sure. It's a pretty big deal. So it's a laureate fellowship based in Denmark. So I'll be based at University of Copenhagen, but I'll be interacting with people all around that region. So I had people supporting my application across Denmark and Sweden and a few other Scandinavian countries. And so it's a 7-year grant with a 5-year option. So I could be there for 12 years or in that position for 12 years. So it's quite a long time. And so I'll be moving to Copenhagen in July, all going well. I'll be moving in July this year. So around the time of the annual meeting, maybe just after, if I can squeeze it in. And I'm meant to start on the 1st of August, University of Copenhagen. So COVID depending. I didn't want to go with COVID, but yeah, it is COVID depending. And so I'll mainly be interested in, I guess, to simplify it, what happens with the gut corona. So things that adsorb onto particles in the gut and how that impacts on their interaction with gut biology and as drug carriers and enzymatic processes, etc. I'm starting a whole new group. I'm not taking people from Monash. So that's an 80% position, and I'm retaining a 20% position at Monash. So I'll still have a small group at Monash doing some of the things that we've been doing for a while now to keep things ticking over. And then in 12 years' time, maybe I'll be going back. Who knows?
And what inspired you to apply for this grant to begin with? Because this is a pretty life-changing event to be spending or planning to spend like a decade over there now, yeah?
It is. I've read a few things around people saying you got to reinvent yourself and challenge yourself to do things and rewrite your own history. And so I've certainly done it this time. And it's an opportunity to really connect with different people. It's, as you will attest, you're quite geographically challenged in Australia, although there's some excellent science that, the critical mass that you have in sort of Europe and US is not there with Australia. It's a bit more like a comfy lounge chair in a sense. And so I was ready for a new big challenge, and this one was a bit of an ambit claim. I really didn't think that I would have a chance, but I think the convergence of some of the things that we were doing and the facilities that have come into place in terms of infrastructure, so there's new synchrotron, new neutron scattering source going in southern Sweden, and there's new microscopy capabilities in Denmark, and some really interesting things going on in that region, plus interactions with some of the industry that I already had there, just kind of converged on an opportunity, and that was seen by the foundation as something that they want to invest in, and the rest is history.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, and I hope it works out for you. So you also recently won the Eureka Award, right, for your milkshake project. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that as well?
So the team won the award, so it's very much been a team effort. So myself, Melinda Salim, who's currently the secretary of the CNDP division for CRS, so she's getting more and more sort of into CRS as a society, and So if you see her around, congratulate her. And Gisela Ramirez, who's a senior researcher in my group, and Andy Clulo, who's an Australian Research Council postdoc fellow, sort of like an NSF fellowship, and Adrian Hawley from the synchrotron. So we've all been working on this project for a number of years now, and it was largely funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to look at milk as a drug delivery system and opportunities for those sorts of materials to be translated into a product context, because milk's really difficult as a potential excipient because of variability and obvious storage issues, but there's other ways you could think about harnessing the science that goes into milk, but in a format that's a bit more product friendly. And we've managed to do a lot of that with the support of the Gates Foundation. And yeah, so the Australian Museum runs, like we call it, the Logies for Nerds in Australia. So we won one of the Logies for Nerds, well, Emmys for Nerds, to put it into US speak. So like an Oscar for scientists, and they actually have like a black tie prize ceremony, in a big function room in Canberra, and of course we couldn't do it because of what. So it was a responsibly socially distanced event, but it was still a lot of fun, and because we weren't in lockdown in Melbourne at that point, we could celebrate back at my place. So we had a big after party at my place. So that was good fun.
Sounds fun. Wish I could have been there to celebrate with you.
We definitely would have been there, Linda.
Well, hopefully we can celebrate again when you come over, yeah?
Yeah.
So aside from these two new happenings, is there anything else that you want to share with us today?
No, just, always lots of interesting things happening. So we've been doing some things with some interesting new drugs. So we've been doing a bit with metal drugs and metal complexes, and we've been sort of rebirthing some old drugs for other purposes. So teaching old drugs new tricks, and some interesting new techniques as well. So we got the first CARS microscope in the Southern Hemisphere. It was at MIPS, and so we've been using that to look at milk and lipid formulations in a new way, which was something that I always tried to get going with the folks in Helsinki, because they've had a microscope for probably coming up to 10 years, but just the geography made it really difficult to get any momentum. So we're really starting to use that in anger now, which is quite interesting. So so lots of really interesting things going on.
Awesome.
Most of which I'll have to abandon when I come over to Copenhagen, but it's okay.
Still, you can always collaborate back home, right?
Exactly. We've set up the capabilities, and there'll still be people there to continue some of that work. So
awesome. I'm looking forward to all the research findings then. Now we can move on to the second part, which is maybe your involvement in the CRS, being the incoming CRS president. So maybe you can tell us a little about your history with CRS, how you joined, how long you've been there. So just a bit of a backstory.
Sure. I pulled out all of my old abstract books and had them lined up on the desk this afternoon in preparation, just to remind myself. And so I think my first one, I've got a photo actually I might send to you. But I think my first one was what's been sort of affectionately known as the hot CRS. So in Vienna, for anyone who was in Vienna, 2006 it was, and it was 35 degrees every day, and they're not big on their air conditioning in Vienna, so people remember it as an incredibly hot event. And we had a function at the town hall, and it would have been 40 degrees, I think, inside the hall, and everyone was crammed together in a non-socially distanced way, everyone's sweating. But there was maybe every 10 metres, there was vents in the ground pumping cold air through. And so it was like people were pushing each other out of the way to stand over the cold air vents. And then there was a few of us, of course, that worked out that the next best thing is to cool yourself from the outside in. So we were going over to where they were bringing the drinks out and making sure we were first in line for cool drinks. So that was the other approach.
Very nice.
So 2006 I think was my first one, and I think I've missed 2 CRSs since 2006. So it's been a bit of a marathon of CRSs. I missed the New York one, and I think there was one other that I missed. I can't remember where it was, but every other one I've got the evidence of the abstract book. Up until last year, we didn't have an abstract book, obviously, last year. But every year before that, I'm pretty sure we had abstract books. So we had a virtual abstract book. And I was there for the record last year as well. So, so my history with CRS. So in about 2008, we started talking about the Australian chapter, CRS. 2009, I think we kicked off that chapter, and we've held an annual meeting, like chapter meeting, every year since, as well as some workshops and other events with our New Zealand cousins across the ditch. And we, so I was president of the chapter from, I think, 2010 until about 2016. And we built it up. Amirali Parvat's the chair, the president now of the chapter. And in between time, I was secretary. I was on the board of directors, and I was secretary for a couple of years as well. So, so that kind of got me into the, I guess, the governance side of CRS, and it's kind of led to me saying no for a few years, and then ultimately last year I said yes, I'll run for president, and yeah, thankfully I got enough votes to be the incoming president.
And what do you hope to bring to the table for CRS?
I think that I'll always sort of run on a platform of international exposure and international development, and I think that I've always had the saying that chapters are not part of the problem; they're part of the solution. And I really think that we're not yet harnessing our chapters in a way that works for everybody. There's a bit of push-pull, and that tension, I think, is just because we haven't had a proper concerted effort at deciding the best way that the chapters can help to define CRS in the future. And so that'll be one big focus, is continuing our international push, and trying to work even more and work harder with chapters to make sure that they're an integral part of CRS and not seen as something separate.
Yeah. So just improving engagement all across the year, globally as well, not just focusing only on the meeting.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's fair to say that in the last 3 years, Avi and Ilva have really helped to revitalise the chapters and the international aspects of CRS. And so I'm not saying that we'd be starting out from scratch. It's about keeping up that momentum and pushing it into the next level. So I think we've got a huge opportunity with the India chapter, for example, the China chapter, to access a lot of scientists that we don't currently interact with. And I think if we can start to harness those opportunities, then CRS will be in really good shape into the future.
Sure.
We're also concerned about meetings and the format of meetings, and in the post-COVID era, how meetings are going to be constructed and conducted. And I don't think we've heard. We're nowhere near the end, and we're probably not even at the beginning of the end. We're somewhere near the end of the beginning, I think. So
year of many.
Yeah, we need to do some real hard thinking and make some really important strategic decisions to make sure that meetings are really going to work for us into the future.
I mean, I guess one good thing out of COVID was that having the platform being moved online has opened our access to so many other scientists around the world who would have otherwise had no opportunity to go in person to the meetings, right?
Exactly. Well, I mentioned those 2 chapters, and if we can have more people from those parts of the world involved in the annual meeting, then it makes for a much richer annual meeting. And then CRS should be looking to be family friendly, and having a single large meeting in a single intercontinental venue, wherever that may be, is not in any way family friendly. So I think we can do a lot more on that front as well. So whereas a the online meeting is certainly family friendly because you can do it from home, but it's probably going a bit too far the other way. So how do we come up with a model that it satisfies the networking and the social aspects of being part of CRS, but also satisfies those more contemporary objectives that we should have around internationalisation and family friendly, so that everyone wins out of the annual meeting.
Alrighty, I can't wait for your meeting then.
Which is easy to say, but it's hard to do.
Of course. There's a lot of effort that goes into the planning as well, as everyone should understand. So maybe now we can move to the next part, which is more your life outside of science, so beyond CRS and your research. So outside of work, what do you spend your time most on, and how do you de-stress?
So I'm well known for chasing a little white ball around a paddock, that thing there on the wall, my hole-in-one from 2 years ago. So I like a bit of golf, and so that takes a lot of time. But since focus will come back. So since lockdown, I started running, which was really, I thought I'd be the last person to do that, and now I run 30, 40 kilometres a week without fail, and so that's kind of probably the second time sink outside of work.
That is amazing.
Golf still wins though, it's a choice. Not that I've ever been any good at golf, and I'll probably never be really truly any good at running, but I enjoy both, and I think they're both not bad pastimes to have.
Very beneficial as well. So, it's very good. Awesome. And so I assume this is what you also did during your lockdown time, right?
Well, we weren't allowed to play golf. So I'd prefer not to really remember lockdown if I can, because in Melbourne we're out of lockdown now. We've got no cases and there's virtually no restrictions. So I think when you say last year, you mean 2019. The golden rule. But running, yes, we were allowed to run within 5 kilometres of our house. So I was doing a fair bit of that during lockdown, and I don't know, the time just managed to go. It was, you're getting a rhythm of a few Skypes with people and do some work, and by the time you eat and a bit of exercise or whatever, the day's over and it's Groundhog Day the next day. So you know what it's like. So yeah, I tried to start to learn piano, and so I can get through a one-handed version of Fur Elise. That's about it. So I don't know, at some point I might go back to that, but yeah, I didn't really pick up any new hobbies as such, I'd say.
Is Tang giving you pointers for the piano?
Well, she was partly inspiration, but
yeah. Nice.
No, she knows that I'm never going to be any good. So
I mean, you kind of thought that about running as well until you tried it, and now you're really good at it. So I guess persistence.
The furthest I'd run is to the bar when it was Last Drinks, was called previously. And Linda, you haven't seen me really since. Well, you haven't seen me since then.
It's only through photos and videos, yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm sure you'd agree I would be the last person to take up that sort of a thing. So
Who knows? Anyone can try anything, right? So what inspires you? Like, what shaped you into who you are today, and what motivates you to keep going?
So what inspires me, and I know it's a cliche, but you guys do. So young scientists that are, come into our profession, and when you see that first sort of, the first moment of realization that they're doing something new and getting some new results that teaches the world something that they didn't know, that the world didn't know before. I just love that moment. So that, we don't get up to do all the admin stuff or really for undergraduate teaching, although some might. I certainly don't. But it's that sort of, enabling young scientists to get the same buzz out of science that we had. It's, I think, what gets me out of bed in the morning. So that's what enabled that, I think, was the other part of the question, or what was So from my background, I think sort of personal independence is a big one, but also you'll laugh at this one, is the belief that if you don't ask, you don't get. So which is one of my favourite sayings to students and postdocs. So
never forget.
So I think if you go with that mantra, you'll get a lot. Not being afraid to ask is what that's meant to be about, and you'll be surprised how far you get in life in general by asking the question that you may have been uncomfortable or unsure that you should ask. So so I think they're the sort of things that have got me through.
So maybe we can move now to the final section, which is the rapid fire questions. So I'll put a limit of 1 minute and 30 seconds, and we'll see how many questions you can go through. Alrighty, so let's go. 3, 2, 1, and start. Favorite reference manager?
EndNote.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Profession that you'd be terrible at?
IT.
Nano or micro?
Micro.
Go-to meal for a busy day?
Pass.
Superpower you'd want?
I'll go back. No, sorry. Superpower I'd want.
Yeah.
Invisibility.
Favorite scientific brand?
Bookie.
Beverage of choice?
Beer.
How do you procrastinate?
Beer.
Hypothetical lab mascot?
Hypothetical what?
Lab mascot.
Lab mascot.
If you don't already.
Shepherd, like a herd leader.
Usual wake-up time?
6 a.m.
Go-to karaoke song?
Oh, geez, there's so many. Hello, Lionel Richie.
Favorite CRS annual meeting location?
Edinburgh.
Usual bedtime?
Depends on if I'm in Edinburgh. If it's Edinburgh at 6 a.m.
Beep, 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 beep. Congratulations, you finished. Very nice, interesting.
Oh.
Of course, hello would be the usual answer for your karaoke songs. No doubt, we always do that.
Suspicious Minds was my first ever karaoke song at a CRS.
This was in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Christians definitely.
Thank you very much for sharing your experiences and your time with us, Ben. I hope it was really enjoyable for the audience who is watching. Yeah, thank you, everyone.